Okay, go ahead, Ted.
All right, welcome everybody. This is
Welcome.
edition. What is this? Number 10. Social Selling TV, episode number 10. We're cranking them
Excellent.
out. That's 10 in like 4 weeks. So
We're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good here. My
yeah,
name is Bob Woods. I am a, social business strategist with People Links, and I am executive vice president at Social Sales Link. And Ted, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
yeah. I'm Ted Prodromo, and I'm the author of Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn for Business. I do a lot of online marketing, consulting, and social media, and all that fun stuff. That's a constantly moving target.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. And today we are here to talk about LinkedIn and social selling, and we've got some good topics going on with that. Hopefully, we're going to be joined here by Michael DeGroot, who is having issues logging in, as I had issues logging in too. I don't know if it was just me or just him. I'd blame it on their end, but I'm not. But with people. But both of us at the same time in two different countries, I don't know, maybe Blab's having some problems today. But no matter, we do have a couple people in here, and that's the important part. So before we get started, I'd like to remind people that we do have the chat room going. If you have a question, please submit via chat or by typing /Q in before your question. We will get to them as soon as we can. We do have at least one window open for now. If you'd like to join us via video and or audio, that would be great. And you also have the option, and we'd like for you to use it, to promote this via Twitter or Facebook. Just use the buttons in the upper left, basically.
Yeah.
Upper left. Yeah. So let's see here. I'm going to do that real quick. So Ted, you're looking tanned and well rested.
I didn't realize till I got on the camera here.
Ted, yeah, Week in Mexico will do that to you. And as for me, dressed a little spring-like, because it is spring here where I'm broadcasting from in the Lexington, Kentucky area in the bluegrass. So I am celebrating by dressing like I'm where from Ted just came from, and I was also out in the sun, which is why I'm even a little more Irish red than I normally am right now. Let's see. So let's just check over the chat room real quick. See, Laura 97, we're excited to have you here too. Let's go ahead and get the discussion started. Ted was there. I've got a couple of things. Michael had one thing. Hopefully he'll be able to join in as well. But after a week off, hopefully your brain is re-engaged into work-related things. And why don't you go ahead and let us know what's on your mind?
Well, no, I was going to ask you what's changed, because
what hasn't changed?
I couldn't get on the internet most of the time. It was a really slow internet connection there.
Okay.
So I was forced to take a vacation from my technology.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It was. Well, actually, I'm back. Yesterday I was major catch-up mode. So
that is the only disadvantage of being that disconnected from technology, is you do have to catch up at some point, and it tends to kind of wash over you. So so let's see. With that in mind, I actually published an article that I want to go over very quickly. But I think before I do that, just about 10 minutes before we started this blab, I saw something come up in my in my news feed on LinkedIn that I am copying and pasting into the chat window. It's from Rain Selling, which I respect a lot in terms of sales and in terms of sales training. And the article is entitled "Why Social Selling Will Soon Be Just Selling," basically. So so they have. Oh, here comes Michael.
Hey,
Michael. Hey, how you doing?
You can hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So actually, I was going to start talking about this only because you weren't on, but we were going to quickly address the social selling becoming just sales angle of things, and I know that that's something that you'd want to talk about. So rather than me do it, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you are in the hot seat.
Thank you. Yeah, were you talking about the article?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the premise in this article is very much about the fact that we're all calling it social selling today, right? And how everybody needs to be embracing this. And in the future, it's just going to be called selling. Now, which is fair enough. Everybody's saying this will just be part of the way that we do business, or try and engage with our future buyers and, you know, be thought leaders and everything else. And I about a year ago, I wrote a similar article and I just called it modern selling. You know, I appreciate that people want to just call it selling today because it's just going to be part of what we do. I still think there is some requirement to differentiate it. Today it's called social selling, but I just would like to call it modern selling. You know, it's a modern way of doing business. I also still believe that people, except for people that are already in sales, there are people out there that have a problem with the word sales or selling because you know, being sold to by a salesperson is not something that people enjoy most of the time. And so, you know, there is a barrier perhaps to get over for people that are not in the industry because, you know, a salesperson will go, yeah, sales, selling, I haven't got a problem with the term. But if you were to speak to somebody who's being sold to, they will have an issue with the term. So, you know, I don't know what the solution is. I'm just kind of putting it out there for debate to say, you know, selling or sales is still perceived a little bit as something that people don't enjoy. And that's why, and many people have talked about it, and you guys have written about it too, I'm absolutely sure. And that is that the buyer will find the salesperson. You know, the buyer will come to us as salespeople and they will already be ready to have a conversation with us because they've done all their search. You know, they've got their friend called Google and they've done all their search and they know what they want. So when they pick the phone up or email somebody, they are already, whatever the figure is today, 70% of the way there probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I kind of associate it like if you're having a garage sale and you just put up posters around your neighborhood, you're kind of putting a message out there and people will come to you. And I tell people with social media, put those kind of posters out there, but don't sell to people. Just get their attention and then they'll come and find you.
Yeah, it's just like Cameron Firefish just typed in the chat room. The buyer is 60% of the way through the buying process nowadays before they even engage with the human, which is that is an impressive number, and I agree. It's and Colleen is agreeing. It's contemporary selling. Most people don't even recognize the term social sales, which is an interesting point and a good point as well.
I love the contemporary. That's even better than modern. Yeah. Modern,
contemporary, or just, I mean, you know, just plain old sales. But, you know, and probably because it seems that when it comes to sales training right now, you still have, you know, people like us who train in social selling, and you know, we bill ourselves as you know, our processes can plug into any type of sales process whatsoever. And then you have just the sales trainers who sometimes they do address social selling, sometimes they don't. I know that Sandler Sales has a LinkedIn kind of module out there right now, which I've read, and it's not bad, but you know, it definitely doesn't go into the type of detail that we do. Do you see as because I think in the Rain Selling, and I'm just reading this real quick. They predict that I'm just going to read this paragraph. In 5 years' time, we'll just call social selling a part of selling. The thought of picking up the phone and dialing a perfect stranger with hardly any preparation in an effort to secure the meeting will be as alien to us as the idea that once we were actually dialing, quote unquote, on a rotary phone.
Well, I tell you what, I believe that there is still a massive discussion going on around the integration of sales and marketing, and because the lines are getting very blurred now, because as a salesperson, you need to have content. You need to be a thought leader. You need to be writing. You need to be sharing. You need to be talking, engaging. A lot of the things that traditionally has been, in the camp of marketing teams, and now we're asking salespeople to become more like marketers as well. So, the lines, and I know there is a lot of debate going on in organizations about this, because, okay, do marketing write the content and provide it to salespeople to share, or do salespeople themselves become, those individuals as well? So even though, I don't think selling is going to be just selling in the future in 5 years' time. I think it's going to be a totally different approach because of the marketing piece. Just my personal view.
Yeah.
Ted, what do you think?
Now, the big problem, I worked for a software company for 3.5 years, and we were in marketing, and we had a consistent message we were putting out there. Then salespeople started doing tweeting, and they're starting to put content out there, but it wasn't consistent all the time. So we had the job of herding the cats to make sure everybody that's publishing something was consistent in our message.
Right.
And we used the same brand messaging. So it's kind of hard. We didn't want to be the police, but we had to have that consistency.
And actually, C-Laura I don't know how you pronounce it, C-Laura97, just came up with a very good point in the chat room. It's getting confusing, she says, especially when we're being measured by sales quota. Carmen, thank you, Carmen. But when we're being measured by sales quota, but must take time for these time-consuming tasks, which may not lead to a sale in months, which to me speaks to a mindset change that needs to be made among sales management and upper management at companies, and at least and this isn't a direct plug for the main company that I work with, but with PeopleLinx, and obviously with CRMs as well, you can track social selling influenced sales, just through by entering them via lead sources, or at the most basic level, up to what we do at PeopleLinx, which is actually integrating with Salesforce and tracking them and putting them on a grid and actually showing the sales influence of social selling via all of the other sales channels that companies use. But that is but that's a very important point. And I guess, do you all see a change in sales management yet, or is social selling still climbing a very uphill battle when it comes to acceptance by those higher ups?
I think it depends on the company, the culture. Some companies get it and they're moving in that direction quickly. Other companies, they're still moving slowly, and they really don't have the consistent organization.
It means different things to different people and audiences. So some people believe that social selling means advertising on social channels.
Which it does not.
Just to kind of put stuff out there and go, buy me. And some of it may stick, some of it might not. You just don't know. Some of it, and I'm talking about posting, messages like that. Other people think it's advertising, literally putting paid ads on social channels. Some of it works, some of it doesn't work. I mean, Facebook is doing all right out of it. And then others that I've come across believe that they need to be learning a lot about and I've noticed this particularly with financial institutions, that they want a dashboard where they can learn a lot about the organization and the individuals in the organization. So they get lots of, information, data on the organization that will allow them to design tactics. So they may get some social data, some news data, and some social media data together to aggregate on an organization and people within it. That will then allow them to design some tactics, how to then engage with them. So, yeah, there are different approaches, I think, because it still means different things to different people.
Right.
And I think, was it in your article, forgive me, because I just read it a few seconds ago, but did you say about branding at all?
I don't know if I don't know if that got into branding so much.
Yeah.
But
see, I talk a lot about the personal brand that people need to relate to more. So yeah, we can have a company message, but actually we need to trust some individuals that can, I know we say thought leader, but I'd like to call them personal brand, because we're all in some degree kind of in our own little way celebrities now, because you're on social, you can have thousands of followers and maybe in some cases hundreds of thousands of followers. And so you've got to have, a good brand. Anyway, I'll shut up for a minute. Let you.
No, no. That was all fantastic. So, yeah, I guess just in terms of that personal celebrities, that's been something I've been kind of percolating over a little bit. But yeah, I want to call it something like micro celebrity or something like that. I mean, because there are beginning to be, within all of the niches that we have, and I'm talking about any niche whatsoever, demographic, blah blah, whatever. I mean, there are definitely kind of stars or celebrities or whatever who rise up to the top and start to get recognition. And I think that as social sellers, we should actually be striving to achieve that status, because when you get that status, especially in the business arena, you also have you also gain that the thought leadership and the branding as a quote unquote expert, so that people will trust you and your company solutions or products or whatever at that point as well. And I think that's just huge.
A lot of it depends on your buying cycle too. Like that company I worked for, it was a 1 to 2 year buying cycle. It was a very high ticket software item.
Yeah.
So we had to have a consistent message going out there. We had different messages for different parts of the buying cycle. And then we had a couple of people that were the celebrities. The CEO was a celebrity because he created the product.
Right.
And then we had another guy he worked with the analysts. So he made sure we had a good relationship with all the analysts. And then we had the tech guy who was like God. He's one of the original developers too. But he's like a big celebrity. And then the rest of us were just kind of putting that message out there.
Sure. Colleen says that she thinks that unless the executive team understands social selling and has a vision, it's difficult to create sustainability. It should be woven into an overall strategy, like KPIs, and engaged through multiple areas, including HR, sales, marketing, even customer service, and something that we've been pushing lately at PeopleLinks, just employee promotion, no matter where that employee is within the company.
So what do you think of gamification of that process? Like Mario talks about that a lot.
Yeah. Gamification is actually part of the PeopleLinks platform. And I think that when it comes to like salespeople, because salespeople tend to be competitive in the first place. So I think that gamification can help build social selling throughout the sales organization, and probably to a certain extent the marketing side of things as well. When it comes to general employees, it depends on that employee. Not everyone wants to see themselves in first place. They're just not all competitive necessarily. So maybe that doesn't work quite as well in a broader audience. But I definitely think that when it comes to sales, marketing, biz dev, even executive management, all those people tend to be competitive. So the gamification of this type of thing definitely helps build social selling throughout an organization.
It's interesting because quotas are kind of gamification. They've been around forever, but now they want more.
Yeah. Well, of course they want more. That's why they're in business, which is good. So what and the one thing that I can't answer is, are there prizes being attached to gamification and things like that? Quite frankly, maybe companies can start doing that a little bit more. Even if it's a $10 Starbucks gift card or Amazon or whatever. It doesn't have. It should be probably a little more symbolic than actually monetizing or whatever, but that can only help increase adoption of social selling throughout the enterprise.
I have a challenge, and it really depends on how people set up the gamification, because the danger with anything, and Colleen, the same with KPIs, when you are putting individuals and measure their performance against other individuals, so everybody can see where everybody is, you lose the kind of team approach in terms of achieving success for the organization. And I appreciate that people need to have goals and some targets, etc. But when you say to people, right, Michael, your gamification was really great, here's a prize, then how's everybody else going to feel? They may have done, a huge amount of work themselves and don't feel rewarded for it, and the morale won't be very good. Now, there's always a challenge with that, because I appreciate you can also say, well, Michael or Ted's done a great job. You should all aspire to be like him or her, and try and get to that place too, because they're a good example for you. So you can strive to be as good as Alison or whoever. Mm-hmm. But the trouble is, there's no doubt you're going to feel down at some stage if you haven't reached your quota or your KPI or your gamification level or number of stars. Or this is the trouble in terms of modern management. I don't think 100% that way is that great, unless there are some team KPIs or gamification stars along the journey.
Yeah.
Any views on that?
Well, everywhere I've worked, boy, the salespeople are just ruthless. Like, they're just going for the top. And if they don't make it, they don't survive. If you don't make your quota a few months in a row, you're gone. Mm-hmm. They were like just super motivated, and they would do anything to close sales. And it got ugly at times, but there's always the cream of the crop. There's always like 2 or 3 people fighting for that top spot every month.
Right.
And other people were trying, but they all of a sudden they disappeared. Their desk was empty one day.
Yeah, and if you have that ruthless approach where it's hire and fire, then yeah, you're right. I mean, if that's the culture that organizations want to develop, then forget social selling.
Yeah,
because that's never going to stick in a culture of hire and fire.
Oh yeah.
It's because the journey on social selling isn't overnight. It's not tomorrow. It's maybe not even next week. It could be 3 months down the road before you're going to get some engagement or a conversation, potentially. The trouble is, if it's a hire and fire culture and you've got KPIs or results that you have to deliver within days, then all you're going to get is connect, email, ask for the sale.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
The whole thing about thought leadership, personal branding, listening, all of those things just go out of the window.
Yeah.
And the trouble is most people are impatient. I agree. They need a sale.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, next week.
Right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
5 minutes.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of that, needing sales and generating leads and things like that, Carmen C. Laura 97 actually has a question from the chat room, and Ted might be the best person to ask this or answer this. I'm not sure. She says, I have heard of salespeople generating tons of leads successfully through Twitter. What tips do you have on how to make this happen for myself? And she says that she's open to tips not only for Twitter, but also other social media channels as well. So whoever wants to take that, go ahead.
First question is, what are you selling? Because that depends. You can generate good leads on Twitter, but like for that software company, you're not going to sell a $100,000 software product through Twitter, but you're going to get their attention through that.
Okay, so Carmen says consulting engagements.
Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of like that, what I talked about before. If you're having a garage sale, put little posters up all over, little messages that people see. And it's this, I schedule a lot of my tweets because I have all these excerpts from my books. So they're always going out there, different places at different times. And people say, you're everywhere on social media. And I just kind of giggle and say, it's all automatic. But it's I do complement that with personal interactions. So
Sure, yeah. And then you also have to, and this is something that Michael wanted to bring up too, but you also have to listen to what's going on in just in social media in general, especially when people do retweet you or comment on your posts or whatever. And that's whether you're talking about Twitter or a Facebook company page or a personal page or a LinkedIn or LinkedIn page too. And Michael, do you want to get into that a little bit more? Listening?
Yeah. The way that Twitter can be very, very useful is by creating lists. So if you find your potential buyers on Twitter, you can follow them or not even follow them. You can just add them to a list, and that list could be private, so they don't even know they've been added to the list. And you can review only those few people, and they could be, I don't know, a dozen, 20, 50, 100. You will only have those few people on your list that you will engage with and look at what they're talking about and what they're sharing. And it could be anything from business to personal stuff, because that's what people do.
Yeah.
But that's where you can start developing a little bit of engagement. My advice, nevertheless, would be hopefully you can move that discussion or a little bit of engagement on Twitter and move that over to LinkedIn, where you can engage at a deeper level. So once you've become familiar with that person, and maybe they followed you back, if you follow them, then within a few days, maybe 5 days, you could then ask to connect with them on Twitter. On LinkedIn. Because you can then develop a more, a deeper conversation with them, hopefully there, depending on their platform of choice. I mean, they may not actually be doing that much on LinkedIn, but they're very busy on Twitter. Yeah. So you have to make that call. Do I move them over to LinkedIn and engage with them there, or do I stay on Twitter? But I find that having lists inside Twitter means you can just work with those few people and just see what they're doing and listen for the cues, because there's things in what they're saying, and pick the time when you want to engage with them.
And then the only thing I would say is always keep in mind the ultimate goal of social selling, which is to take online conversations offline. That's the ultimate goal that you have. So, so let's say, for example, you have somebody on Twitter who doesn't use LinkedIn. Maybe at that point they would be willing to do a call instead. That's entirely possible. So with that in mind, Cameron has called in, and Cameron, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having us, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm loving what you guys are talking about just now.
Good. Would you want to join us, Spot? Did you have a question or anything?
Yeah, just wanted to sort of touch in on the Twitter side of things. Like, you guys are totally on point with that. Like, building the lists is a fantastic way to start to monitor what's going on in your marketplace. Dip in and out of those lists, drop in with some engagement, favorite some of your prospects' content, retweet it, share it, let them see that you're on their radar. And then, as you guys rightly say, like, the goal then is to try and move that communication either onto somewhere like LinkedIn or take that conversation offline and actually get them on the phone. Once you then get that telephone conversation going and you uncover some of their pain, the approach that I take is then to go back onto that social platform and then add some value off of the back of the pain points that I've got from them on the telephone. Drop a tweet out there with some content in there about the pain, the issues that they're having, put something out on LinkedIn about the issue they're having. So it's that kind of subconscious message to say, like, hey, I'm here, I've listened to what you're saying, and we have the solution to your problem.
Yeah, things like when people retweet your stuff, if you say thank you to them, they're like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Or
little things.
Or at least just click on that heart. Even just acknowledging that, hey, I saw that and that's cool. I mean, even that goes a long way too. And then something else that's been happening with me more and more, I don't know if it's been happening with you all, but Twitter actually has the ability to tag people now too, and I'm noticing that I'm actually getting tagged more and more in posts too, or in tweets too, and I think that's a really, really good way to get yourself and your message noticed with these people who you're following and may want to talk with or at least get on their radar.
Yeah, definitely.
Chris Brogan is a really good person to follow on Twitter. If you follow him, he engages in conversations with hundreds of people every day. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think like the whole social selling mentality is moving in the total right direction. It used to be that the old traditional sales mantra would be always be closing, but we need to shift away from that now and sort of always be helping, add value at every single stage of the process, and then you're going to get a much better return. I noticed in the comments earlier someone was asking about Twitter. If you want to start to use Twitter for prospecting, you need to be adding value in every single tweet you put out there. If there's no value attached, people aren't going to engage with you and want to chat with you.
Yeah,
precisely.
I don't know if you guys have some of you might use Buffer, and Buffer have come out with a new product which is called Respond.
Respond, yeah.
And
I have not seen it yet, but I know that it's there.
It is awesome in terms of helping you with that engagement. Sometimes it's a bit clunky to have conversations inside Twitter, but this takes the conversation into Respond. And, okay, it's been set up probably for kind of customer service type stuff, but I found it's been much easier for me to engage in some conversations backwards and forwards with people using that method. And it's really, really neat because you have like an inbox, so if you've been mentioned, then you can see and you can just engage with it, and it's free. There's obviously kind of upgrades to business accounts and things, but it's free if you have a Buffer account. I think you may need to be on the awesome plan of Buffer or something. I'm not sure. I am, but I don't know if that's a condition. I think you can just go and get the product without being on Buffer because it's a standalone product.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sendable does similar things too. I've been using that for about 2 months now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Do you find that makes it a bit easier for you, Michael, to do your sort of like your social listening when it comes to Twitter, then using that, just having everything in the one place?
Well, it's the only thing that comes in there is when I'm being mentioned on Twitter.
Cool.
But I mean, just a simple thing like I went to TEDx Warwick at the weekend.
Yeah. And
there is a TEDx Birmingham coming up in a few weeks' time, or in June, but the tickets go on sale on the 11th of March. And there's like a back and forth going on with some people. And it's so easy to just have that conversation. You can direct message or public tweet, and you have the whole thread kind of kept together in one place. And it makes it super easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've been meaning to check that out too. Just haven't had a chance to. So yeah. So this so we are continuing to roll here. If you have a question, please pop it into chat, and we will go ahead and answer it for you. We're probably going to be here until. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michael. That definitely helps. There is a link to respond from Buffer in the chat as well. We're probably going to take this here until about 45 minutes after the hour. So if you have a question, please feel free to pop in. Cameron, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, thanks, guys. I'll free up the seat in case someone else wants to jump in. Thank you so much.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I kind of had the anti-social selling experience last week in Mexico.
Oh, what happened?
Oh,
Not in
timeshare
Mexico.
presentations.
Oh, time. Boy, you talk about the exact polar opposite from social selling. So how was it?
Well, so we've been on lots of them because we own a timeshare, so we've been through dozens.
Mhm.
And I like to go just to see what their angles are and how they're trying to sell me.
Mhm.
So I like it. My wife's kind of just sitting there.
Yeah.
These guys got really super aggressive, and he came in right away and he said, we said, we already own timeshares. We're not interested in buying more, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. And he goes, 99% of the people come in here and tell me that, and I sell 50% of them.
Mhm.
And he just started from the first second, just boom, boom, boom. Then he brought in the
that's fun.
second guy, the closer.
Mhm.
And then like, you're trying to sign the papers so you can get out. So he brings the papers, and then he's like trying to sell you. And then
Mhm.
the third person who gives you your gifts, which was, free meals and stuff, they're still trying to sell you, making even a better deal.
Oh, that's funny. Oh,
Our
God,
45 minutes took 4 hours.
Oh, yeah. That's something.
You could have been on the beach all that time.
The guy was
Yeah,
yelling
exactly.
at us. The second guy was like, "You're crazy for not doing this. You're spending so much extra money. And we're like, whatever. We just want to go to the
that's
beach."
something. Yeah, exactly. Joel has a quick question. How do you feel about cold calling in person? Door knocking. Well, I used to door knock once upon a time. I don't know if Michael or Ted ever door knocked in previous sales roles, but it's interesting.
It's the most fascinating thing to do. You meet
Yeah.
some really great people, or
Yeah,
not
yeah,
so great
you do.
people.
Yeah, it usually goes one way or the other. It could go really, really good, or it could go really, really bad. Have you ever had the door knock, Ted?
Not really. Thank God.
Okay. Part of it, I think, depends on what you're selling, and in B2B, I mean, I know that people like I'm trying to think of some of the big door knockers. Security is probably a big one. I know that a lot of people in security do. I know that when it comes to restaurants, get a lot of door knockers too, from like suppliers and people like that. And it's just it is kind of the polar opposite of social selling, of social selling, because it's really not much different from the teleprospecting call, but at least when you walk in, you're able to potentially establish a dialogue immediately, and it gets to be more personal immediately because you're standing there right in front of them. So, I guess it just depends. I could see companies maybe wanting to work that in to their selling mix in general in terms of lead generation, but I don't know if I would depend on it exclusively. Although companies do, and businesses do.
I think it's what Ted said earlier about some of these questions, and that it depends on the product. And I've seen some great videos of people knocking on doors with cleaning products,
Mm-hmm.
brushes or chamois leathers or whatever it is that is like magic. And you know, some of these people are super, super talented in terms of, you know, I've got this product, but if you buy this, I've got all of this other stuff that I'm going to give away that you're going to get, you know, and you have to admire them. I couldn't do it, but you have to admire them in the way that they have that. They remember everything word for word, perfect. They know what their outcome is. They know they are super confident in making the sale. Right. And I suppose the nearest in kind of, and it's mainly B2C, right, that this happens. I mean, B2B, I know it does happen, but I don't think
it does happen. Cleaning is actually one of the things that happens in B2B as well. And I only interrupted a little bit just because Joel said it sounds like he does copier software, IT, that type of thing. I would think that with those areas where there's a lot of information involved in terms of disseminating and helping and things like that prior to the sale, I would say that social selling would be the better way to do things as opposed to cold calling, just because of that huge information factor. But you know, I guess I would never discount door knocking, especially if you're really good at it.
Yeah. The Cutco knife salespeople that show up at your door.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, and I've known people in the past. I've seen people in the past who do really well at it too. So, I mean, you know, I was okay to decent at it, but anyhow, I'm sorry. I just got torn away here by we'll take this chat question real quick, and then we're going to wrap up. Someone here, Tammy is a wellness coach and works with a nutrition company, has 500 plus followers on LinkedIn, however not approached connections there, not sure of the proper methods. Anyone want to take that real quick?
Well, being active really helps. Just even if you're like, the little happy birthdays, that gets an amazing response from me.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And when people change jobs, a little thank you note, those little things, and posting content. Bob, you're always posting content on our show, and Michael too.
I think being active, start being active on Pulse, and write some. I mean, wellness is a massive subject. I mean, I was involved in wellness many years ago. That's why my company is called Staying Alive UK, because it was all about well-being in the workplace. And actually, it's a massive topic at the moment, and people are interested in wellness and well-being and mindfulness. And those subject matters are interesting nowadays for people to see, you know, how can I be better at doing it? I know nutrition. I don't know if the nutrition is multi-level marketing, because that's possible too. I'm not so sure that would work that well inside LinkedIn personally. But what I would suggest is write a Pulse post, but try not to advertise your products. Try and, you know, share your knowledge and thought leadership about nutrition and wellness. That would be my advice.
Maybe even take the angle of, if your employees eat better, they're better nutrition, your sick days will go down, your healthcare costs will go down for your company. Take those kind of angles to get people's attention. Because LinkedIn, they're all about business mindset.
Right. Definitely. So I think it's 11:45. I think we are going to wrap things up for the day. Oh, we got one other person calling in. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to wait until next time. But this is a reminder that we are here every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific. How that translates to your time period, hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. So just want to thank everyone for joining us. Michael, Ted, I think
Thanks,
that went
Bob.
well. Thank you. And so we're going to
Thanks, everybody.
pause recording here. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Let's see. We're going to